Welcome to Call to Post, the Off the Bench Podcast Network feature dedicated to thoroughbred racing. Hosting today's show will be Brandon Ferst, and Brandon will be joined by Raider Jim Martinez. Grab some paper, make some notes, enjoy yourselves. Let's talk thoroughbred racing. Riders up.
What is up, everyone? Brandon Ferst, aka First Report, representing the First Off the Bench Podcast Network. Everyone comes off the bench, but we are first. It is time for the end of the year, the end of the 2021 racing and calendar year for thoroughbred racing in North America. Breaking it all down, and when I say we, it's myself and my co-host, as always, Raider Jim Martinez. You can find Mr. Martinez at Raider Jim 1090. How you doing tonight, sir?
Hey, I'm doing great. Here we are, the eve of Christmas. And even though it's one of those, it's kind of like you see that relative the next day, the following day after Christmas Eve, after Christmas Day, and they give you this gift and you go, wow, it was unexpected. And that's what Santa Anita is doing for us this holiday season.
Yeah, the tradition that, I think for a lot of horse players, it is kind of the beginning of the new year. And obviously there are a lot of places that it's not easy to run in December, and Santa Anita is not one of them. However, if you're not living on the West Coast, there is a chance that there will be weather, either fallout from the storm that's coming in. We're recording here Thursday, expected big time storm coming in today. I heard on the news they're giving out sandbags. That always gets your attention when they're passing out sandbags. That's when you know, okay, this is a little more than some rain rolling through. So everyone hopefully stays safe. And, for Santa Anita, hopefully the rain has come through and everything is good. As we do, of course, the Boxing Day for all of the
Yes.
Europe, or at least the United Kingdom and Canadian. That's their big day after sport day. So no different here. NFL Sunday as well. But we will start at the top. We'll get to a lot of things, more year in review, and then, of course, talk about the Santa Anita. But unfortunately, some very unfortunate news that has come down over the last few weeks. It is about Medina Spirit, the Kentucky Derby winner. Still was a bit of a question mark. Obviously, there was a bit of a drug test failure. This horse, 3 years old, has unfortunately passed away after collapsing on Santa Anita's course during a training session. Obviously, terrible news. Now, the Bob Baffert specter is there, and the doping and things like that. I just want everyone to remember that they were anti-inflammatories and maybe not the greatest thing in the world, but I don't believe this was a situation that, it's like the Jason Service situation where it's essentially horse cocaine. That I don't believe that's the situation. But unfortunately, the fact of the matter is, one of the best horses in the world, and a horse, period, a beautiful horse, beautiful thoroughbred, gone way too soon. But Raider Jim, what are your thoughts on the very unfortunate passing of Medina Spirit?
Yeah, I mean, everything, it's hard to not look at the situation and see some kind of curious speculation as to what really went on and what was wrong with this horse. This was a horse not even in its prime. Won the Kentucky Derby. We're talking a 3-year-old. Imagine if you had Carl Lewis when he was up and coming as a 20-year-old track star, 1984 Olympics, winning gold medals, and all of a sudden went out for a run and dropped over. People aren't just going to look at that and go, oh, well, guess it happens. And to give you an example, John Henry, the thoroughbred, these are renowned thoroughbreds. John Henry lived to be 32. Seattle Slew lived to be 28. Citation lived to be 25. Affirm lived to be 26. American Pharoah still kicking around. So Seabiscuit was the only one that I could go back to and find. Seabiscuit was less than 20 years old when he passed away. It's to me more than irony. And it's just one of those things, and I don't like to be a conspiracy guy, but wow, it just makes you scratch your head and say, how does a 3-year-old in such good condition, supposedly good condition, have its heart burst after a workout?
Yeah,
it boggles the mind.
It does. And I mean, you obviously have to ask the question of, was the workout necessary? And like you said, all kinds of questions, and there's going to be a lot to unpack, I believe, over time for this. Now the question of, obviously for the owners of Mandaloun and everyone, they do believe that this matters, but you do have to, question is, I mean, do you go back and, we're still awaiting word on whether or not it will be disqualified, or Medina Spirit will be disqualified for the Kentucky Derby. And, for myself now, I just kind of feel like just leave it alone.
Just let it go.
Yeah, I'm sure, like I said, the owners and everyone who wants to move up a slot in the purse money would probably disagree, but I think for the general public, it's probably best if we leave that horse there. And I hope at some point one of these races we break down will be the Medina Spirit Stakes. I expect it at some point, maybe a little too raw right now, but maybe down the road we see something like that. I think that would be a nice touch from, I would assume, either Santa Anita or Del Mar, but we'll see how that goes. But once again, very, very sad and unfortunate news.
Yeah, another thing is, we spoke early on before it was passed in the House about the Horse Racing Safety and Integrity Act. Well, it's been 12 months now since that went through, or real close to 12 months. And I haven't heard any progress being made on the government side, not like they don't have bigger things to deal with than horse racing. But if you're going to have the bill, if you're going to pass it, if you're going to promote it and do all the talking you did, I hope that they are making strides to have something in place real soon, because it seems to me if it was already in place, the death of this horse would be getting looked at with a lot more scrutiny than it is.
And it's actually, I'm glad you brought that up, because I was reading on Horse Racing Nation today that new racing association, the board, the Horse Racing Integrity Act, has essentially suspended negotiations with the USDA. So I think that kind of shows that they are expecting more than what is laid down. And look, I'm not a business major or anything like that, but I understand kind of the raw idea of negotiations. And this is, posturing, negotiation, whatever you want to call it. But this is that new board kind of coming in and saying, look, it's not business as usual anymore. You're not going to come in and the status quo is different. So hopefully this leads to a much better, obviously, first and foremost, an umbrella over all of it, whatever it's decided, that every state is different. You can't go 40 miles east on the Eastern Seaboard and get a whole new racing protocol thing like that. To get it first and foremost an umbrella, and then of course build off of a situation that puts those thoroughbreds first and foremost. So we'll see how that goes. And obviously still a lot to unpack. And look, once again, you don't need to know too much about government to know that a lot of these things take a lot longer than you would expect. And but obviously this situation, they're, like I said, I don't want to call it hardball, but they're not coming from a soft stance in this situation, which is good. So moving on to our horse or our end of the year awards, if you will. I believe July or February we'll see the official Eclipse Horse Awards. I'm sure they're listening to get their picks in from us right now, but we will start with our own batch, and we'll start at the top, of course, the horse of the year. Obviously, more than likely going to be a colt or something like that. But Raider Jim, I'll give you the honors. Who was your horse of the year for 2021?
Kind of hard to look past Knicks Go. Knicks Go is just out there. I mean, only did not meet the winner's circle just one time, brought home millions and millions of dollars in purses. Just had a fantastic year. I like Knicks Go an awful lot. Yeah,
I had 3 horses, for kind of all of these. I guess my long shot and my third was Hot Rod Charlie. I love the horse. I love the story, everything. It was a great run for this, and not run, it's not over, but a great season for Hot Rod Charlie. I did have Knicks Go there as well. And look, Knicks Go is probably the horse of the year, but I really liked this season that Essential Quality had. Obviously, it didn't win the Kentucky Derby. and the Breeders' Cup Classic. But every other race that this horse was in against really good competition, maybe not that Kentucky Derby and Breeders' Cup Classic competition, but still against really good competition, was really good and dominated. And I may still be a little frustrated at Nick's go for the Saudi Cup performance. That was my big bet of the year, if you will, at the start of the year, and it did not go as planned. And waking up at, I think, 7:30 or 8 in the morning to watch a loser, or not a loser, I'm sorry, a ticket lose, I should say,
Right.
That wasn't ideal, and it kind of sticks with you for a little while. So for me, it's essential quality, but once again, that's probably with a little bit of an asterisk, as a little bias there. But moving on to the Phillies of the year, obviously, for me, I'll start this one. It was between two. I will shout out Marsh Lorraine, obviously the horse from Japan, going and winning the distaff. Fantastic stuff. Now, we're talking about overall Philly. Great job. Won the biggest non-aged cap Philly race of the year.
Right.
Obviously, I think the Kentucky Oaks is the biggest, but only for 3-year-olds. But the distaff is right there in terms of not having an age restriction. Went out and won, so I will shout that one out. But for me, it was between two horses. With all due respect to Monomoy Girl, who kind of retired mid-season, so I didn't want to throw her off to the side, but she's had a fantastic career. For me, it was between Malathot and Latruska. Obviously, we expected to see those two go head-to-head in the distaff. Marsh Lorraine had other ideas. I gave the nod to Malathot, and the reason why is just because of a better run in the distaff. Latruska, I do expect to run, or we're expecting to run in the at some point in Saudi Arabia for either the Saudi Cup or something like that in February. Yeah. But Latruska really didn't run terribly well in the distaff. I think finished something like 11th and was obviously pulled up late. But Malathot, I think, for me, finished third. That was enough for me. Two horses that really, up until the distaff, were undefeated all year, except for Mahuka, I think, got Malathot at one point during the year. But really good stuff between those two. It wasn't too much to break down for me. But Ray or Jim, what are your thoughts? Philly of the year for 2021?
Yeah, I had a couple on the list here. Of course, the first one being Malathot. Malathot's there, followed by Echo Zulu and Warlike Goddess. I mean, good horses. And it's that thing. It's almost like having this all-star field, and it's your turn, and they say, okay, you can pick one horse. That's the horse you get to take home, but you can't take any other horses home. You can only take home one horse, and you don't want to leave any of them behind. So, but yeah, Malathot, like you said, just fantastic. Echo Zulu was a great, had a great season. So yeah, those would be my choices.
Yeah, and that's a great segue into the Juvenile of the year. Didn't put a gender restriction on this. I'll just be completely honest. I think it for at least me, it came down to two horses in terms of the Juvenile side of things. I also will shout out Pizza Bianca, who had a great year for Bobby Flay. And I tell you what, if you can stand those jockey cams, check it out online. I'll be honest, if you have motion sickness for things, it's amazing. But if you have motion sickness, just watch the main race and just keep your eye on this horse. Maybe the best ride, the best run of the year, and it was in a Breeders' Cup Juvenile race. So I did shout out Pizza Bianca, but for me it was either Echo Zulu or Corniche, who both starred on either one of their races in Breeders' Cup weekend. But I'll tell you what, I gave the nod to Echo Zulu. That performance in the Philly Juvenile was absolutely outstanding. Corniche is going to be fantastic. The only reason I kind of gave Echo Zulu the nod was Echo Zulu was facing the best of the best.
Right.
Jack Christopher scratched out of the Juvenile, the TVG Juvenile, which would have been, I believe, Corniche's biggest opponent. Not Corniche's fault. But I gave the nod just a little bit more to Echo Zulu. Plus, we were on the turf for that race. I vividly remember, and that was very impressive to see that horse do what it did, very up close and personal, pretty much as close as you could get without being trampled. So, but Raider Jim, what are your thoughts on the Juvenile of the year?
Yeah, I have Echo Zulu, I have Corniche, and I gave an honorable mention to Papa Cap.
Yeah.
Because I think Papa Cap surprised a lot of people. So, ended up in the money when really wasn't supposed to, or didn't think there'd be a chance. But Papa Cap And, that goes back to, not goes back solely to, but when you've got a Joe Bravo on board, you got to pay attention, and he knows how to run that horse, and he did a fantastic job. So yeah, I have Echo Zulu, Corniche, Papa Cat was my three.
Yeah, that was a great year for juveniles. And then obviously, the next time we'll be talking to you, or at least in the very near future, we'll be highlighting those two among other 3-year-olds as we get ready for the Derby and the Oaks at Churchill. Obviously, you do want to bring up the fact of Corniche, that as of right now, ineligible for the Derby. However, apparently there are talks that this horse will be transferred at some point, with the good intention of being transferred back after. Is it, maybe a little, whatever. It is what it is. Maybe not the ideal, but at the end of the day, it wasn't the horse's fault. Let's see this horse run at the biggest stage it can. But anyways, moving on to the race of the year. Plenty of candidates here, but Raider Jim, what was your race of the year for 2021?
Yeah, I don't know if there can be one race of the year. I mean, you have to look at the controversy around the Kentucky Derby and say, that must have been the race of the year. And then you have to go into go into November, the last race of Breeders' Cup, first day. And it's like, are you kidding? Sometimes you get lucky and you are in the house for something that everybody's going to look back and say, hey, I was there. I was there when Reggie Jackson hit 3 home runs. I was there when Mike Tyson knocked out so-and-so. And you and I were there when all of a sudden this horse falls down, that horse falls down, the stewards screw up the communications to the track doctors down below, or vice versa. And the next thing you know, they come out and say, well, this horse is going to run after all. It's not scratched, but it's not running for the gambling money. It's only running for pride, if you will. And it's just like, huh? And I had never seen it. I had never seen it. We weren't alone in saying we have never seen such a thing. And it was somewhat comical for just a split second, unnerving when they made this announcement and that horse won. And all these people that were still there just start booing, and you're just waiting for debris to come raining down upon you, which didn't happen, but that was just odd, that whole thing.
That's so funny bringing that up, because that was my one of my honorable mentions, because that was, I mean, for myself personally, I went from having a horse, I believe when they were loading into the gates, I believe it was 5-1. Now this horse didn't factor in the decision, so don't feel bad for me, believe me. 5-1, something like that. By the time the dust had settled, if you will, I believe it was something like 4-5, because all the money from the top 2 favorites had trickled down and down and down all the way to that horse. I'll never forget it. Whenever I hear purse money only, that's the first thing I'm going to think of, because I'll never forget looking at you and going, well, what the hell else are they running for? And then they announced, well, there's no money in terms of your money on this horse, then of course for that horse to go out and win, it was, like you said, a tad bit unnerving, and one of those situations you go, well, we can look back on it now and laugh, because nothing bad happened. It really
was historic.
It was historic. It's very rare. Probably once every 3 or 4 years at one track that will happen, and it happened in the biggest race of that day, at least, the last race. So fantastic call there for me. There were 3 others, though, that I really looked at. The first one, Breeders' Cup Distaff, Marsh Lorraine coming out of nowhere. Fantastic stuff there. And then 2 of the Triple Crown races. Obviously, the Kentucky Derby you brought up, not only the race, which was fantastic. I believe the difference between first and fourth was, a quarter of a length, something like that. It almost was a sprint race. And it would win a mile and an eighth or whatever it was. And then the Belmont Stakes. But for me, it was the Belmont Stakes. And I think maybe a little bit it's because there wasn't that cloud of controversy that the Kentucky Derby had after the fact. But for me, the Belmont was kind of the most pure race that we saw, because we saw, at least in the Preakness, it seemed like it was the best horses that didn't run in the Derby, all versus Medina Spirit. And, there were 5 or 6 horses that could have ran in the Derby and been factors, sat out, said, we'll run in the Preakness. and all the horses that came in second or third or were in the mix in the Derby said, we'll sit out the Preakness, we'll go to the Belmont. So Medina Spirit, they knew that horse knew it was going to be tough. But the Belmont, for me, seeing Hot Rod Charlie get the job done, it was great. It was great stuff. That's the race that I'd enjoyed the most. I'll start the moment of the year for me. It was 3 of them, and 2 of them were the Breeders' Cup centric. One of them was Nick's Go. Look, returning, and I say returning to the top, and once again, this is my own bias coming into it, but I really do think that early season loss in Dubai, I don't want to say put a bad taste in a lot of people's mouth, but had people questioning whether or not this horse was capable of being that top-notch horse. And I think by the end of Breeders' Cup weekend, it was a resounding yes, it can, and can't wait to see what it has. I also had at the Breeders' Cup Japan, the country of Japan, getting not only a Breeders' Cup win, but getting 2 Breeders' Cup wins in a really 2 different ways. You had Marsh Lorraine as a massive underdog, and then Love's Only You, who might have been one of the smaller or the shortest international favorites in the field, went out, got the job done. Great story there. And for Japan, it's great for that country to get on that. But for me, the biggest moment story of the year, unfortunately, it has to be the fallout of the Kentucky Derby. We've seen, failed drug tests. We've seen controversy, but it's never, at least for me, that I can remember, been the central part of Kentucky Derby, Bob Baffert, and all the fallout that came after it. I mean, we're talking about Corniche. And because of what we're talking about with the Medina Spirit, that horse has to be transferred if it wants to run in the Derby. Any Phillies that want to run in the Oaks have to be transferred out of Baffert's barn. So for me, that was the moment of the year, for better or worse, in horse racing for this year. I think that's what I'm going to remember about 2021, besides us going to the Breeders' Cup, but that was way too easy to pick. But Raider Jim, what was your moment of the year?
Yeah, I would agree with the Kentucky Derby, that whole thing and everything that surrounds it. Again, Bob Baffert has unfortunately made himself into this catch me if you can guy. I'm suspended here, but I can race there, but I'm going to be suspended down here. I'm going to sue. It's too political, and there's too much of that going on. And I know you have down, one of the things you want to talk about is a big prediction for the upcoming year, 2022. I think it's going to be Baffert's going to fall. I think he's going to take the fall. I think too many eyes are looking, because you don't hear a lot of fellow trainers standing in front of him going, hey, back off. This is good. You don't hear Dean Wayne Lucas, the prestigious senior of all these trainers, stepping up and defending him. You don't hear the Doug O'Neills. I'm not saying, and they haven't said anything against him either, but there's a lot of people that are just kind of stepping back going, don't know what to tell you, Bob. So I have a feeling that's what's going to happen, but it would have to be the whole Medina Spirit thing, starting with the Kentucky Derby to the unfortunate accident and passing of the horse.
And the that Horse Racing and Integrity Act may sooner or later be that one, because what you talked about with Baffert in terms of, I can go here, I can go there, I can't go there, but I can transfer the horse. Well, guess what? If we get an umbrella over all that, it's not, the Nevada State Gaming Commission says no, but you can go to Jersey or Atlantic City. No, it's everywhere. You got to deal with one entity, and that may be a part of that bold prediction you had. And I think that's a very reasonable bold prediction, and something that we could possibly see in the fallout of that. If that happens, you can rest assured that next year when we do a show like this and we have moment of the year, that will definitely, I should knock on wood. Hopefully that's the moment of the year.
I've got another moment of the year. I've got another prediction for what will be a big happening of the year. I'm going to go on record right now saying that my buddy Brandon is going to collect a winning ticket on Midnight Bourbon. I say it right now.
I wish I could share the screen and show everybody right now. That is my bold prediction. You thought I would go this entire 21 season without bringing up the greatest horse that's never won a grade 1 in my mind, Midnight Bourbon. I do think this horse wins a grade 1 next year. It might not be against its big time rivals like we've seen, but I think it gets maybe a bit of a lower level grade 1. And I will be there to ride that ticket. And it might have cost me X number of dollars, but I will cash a ticket on that horse.
We will have to find that Maker's 46 and have a toast when that happens.
Yes, I might need to put that on my late Christmas list. See if I can get Santa to find some in his workshop last minute.
There you are.
To crack that for when Midnight Bourbon. That's perfect because that was my bold prediction that Midnight Bourbon will get in the winner's circle in a grade 1. And hopefully, like I said, we'll see that next year. Possibly my prediction may be a little bit bolder than yours. So I like that. But moving on to kind of the matter at hand. We're talking about hypotheticals. Well, now it's time to talk about, real stuff. And it is, of course, December 26th. As you're getting, the kids are playing with their toys, things like that. They're distracted. The TV hopefully will be yours, or at least you get a moment to check out the TVG app. You can watch the races there. But it will be at Santa Anita, a big time card, 6 total big races. We got 3 grade 2s, 3 grade 1s. Run through these rather quickly. We'll start at the top. Race number 5. It is the San Gabriel Stakes, going a mile and an eighth on the turf. This is a purse of $200,000. Raider Jim, I'll let you get us started on the first big race of Santa Anita's big card.
Yeah, Santa Anita opening day, as we just said, and $1.5 million over 6 races. I mean, it is, and again, take a look. We had the not let down, but just finally you get to take a breather. Because we start back in the spring, we go through the Triple Crown, we led up to the Breeders' Cup, and then all of a sudden, Del Mar Bing Crosby season was over. We got a few weeks off, but all I had to do was look at this card, and all of a sudden, all the energy came back again. It's like, this is why we follow thoroughbred racing. This is why West Coast thoroughbred racing is top notch, a real jewel in the crown of thoroughbred racing in the United States. In this particular race, it's again, you just look at the names and wow, it's the all-star lineup. But I like Friars Road, the 2 horse, and that's going to be ridden by Jose Ortiz, who's going to be out here. Also, I like the favorite is 8-5, and that's Hit the Road, ridden by Umberto Rispoli. And then the other horse that I like out here, Red Storm Risen. Red Storm Risen going to be ridden by Flavian Pratt right now at 4-1. Those are your top 3 favorites. I might even go underneath with Indian Peak, ridden by JJ Hernandez, who again, this guy just sets it on fire every time he's out there. So keep your eye on those 4 horses for me.
I agree. I'm very high on Red Storm Risen, especially at that 4-1 number where it is.
Yes.
Flirted with triple digits last time out at Del Mar on the turf, ran in 99. It was an optional claiming, but that's an optional claiming of 100,000. That's pretty much at the top of the optional claiming list. Going to be very interesting. And I think this is, with all due respect to Umberto Rispoli and Jersey Joe Bravo, you get Flavian Pratt aboard, which is, Flavian Pratt has a 27% career winning percentage. If you're in the 20s, the low 20s, that's prolific. This Flavian Pratt is one of the best, and I think that's an upgrade now for this horse, especially their 4-1. Hit the Road, obviously at 8-5. The biggest thing I think for this horse is you don't have Mo Forza or Smooth Like Straight running, which in its last 2 runs in the grade 2s had both of those horses running and finished 3rd in both of those. 2 Mo Forza and Smooth Like Straight. So that's, I believe, why this horse is the favorite. Bob and Jackie's an interesting one to me. I think there's maybe a little bit of a reaction to what the horse did last time in the Seabiscuit. Only ran in 82, which isn't terrible, but will not be a factor if it continues that. Prior to that, it was in the mid 90s, low 90s, which you're going to have to improve on that, but I think at 8-1 and might even move up. Bob and Jackie's worth at least a look on a play show ticket. This horse has an opportunity to possibly get into the money and make some money. But yeah, I really do like Red Storm Risen running very close to triple digits. And depending on what happens with Hit the Road, 8-5 is okay, because I think this is the best horse on the board, but I think that number is going to drop. And I think you're going to have to look for value elsewhere. Hence why I think Bob and Jackie's one. Friars Road is definitely a horse to keep an eye on. And one that I've seen back-to-back now in some big time races and has been very close. 5-2 though. Once again, I think both of those numbers, Hit the Road and Friars Road, are going to kind of shrink down. Everyone else is going to inflate. Therefore, I think there's other value elsewhere. But we'll see how that rolls. And like you said, it's going to be a great kind of start to things as we get rolling. But moving on to the San Antonio Stakes, also a grade 2, also 200,000 for the purse. Mile and 16. This one's going on dirt for 3-year-olds and up. I'll get this one started. We have, let me just roll through. This is the return right here of course, Hot Rod Charlie, if you want to call it a return, going obviously dropping down to a grade 2. Last time we saw this horse, it ran 4th in the Breeders' Cup Classic, still ran a 107. The last 5 runs for Hot Rod Charlie have all been in the triple digits going back to the Kentucky Derby. The only concern I have here, morning line of 6-5. I would not be surprised if this gets down a little closer to 2-5. I think there's going to be a lot of money. Now, one thing to keep an eye on here, blinkers are coming off for Hot Rod Charlie. I don't know if you're a huge believer in things like that, but throw it out there. But definitely the class of the field here is Hot Rod Charlie. The 5 horse for me is an interesting one, kind of for different reasons. It's 8 rings, currently 4-1. This is a horse last time out that ran in 92, which isn't terrible, but is well off the pace, obviously, of Hot Rod Charlie and some of these others, and really hasn't won a big time race in quite some time. Last time it won was in October, and that was an optional claiming. So at 4-1, I kind of threw that horse away. But the other horse I had an eye on with some value is Azul Coast. Last time out, won the Native Diver at Del Mar. This is a Baffert trained horse, 5-1, Jose Hernandez aboard. I think there's going to be a lot of value with Azul Coast, because as good as I think Hot Rod Charlie is, I just don't have $50 to drop to win 35, 40 bucks. I mean, and that's probably lucky. If you're getting 2-5, it's probably going to be a little closer to 20, 25. But Raider Jim, what are your thoughts on the San Antonio?
Labian's race to lose. Hot Rod Charlie all the way in this one. But like you say, how much do you have to bet? If you've got the money and you want to get out there for some sure money, you know you're going to win it. Even if you just take that place in that show, but really you're going to put a lot out if that's going to be your ankle. So what are you going to fill in with? Definitely like the 7 horse Azul Coast. Won its last time out, 40% on the win percentage, averaging 22,000 each time it hits, each time it starts. Now I do like Express Train, and Express Train at 7-2 is a good number. The only thing that I'm hesitant about is 3rd place finish the last time out and has 85 days off. Kind of a lot for me. But there are reasons why, and I don't know the reasons why, but 85 days off, when you look at this field and everybody else is more in the 20, 30s, we've got one horse on the 40-day, days off range. So that's my only concern with Express Train. I do like on a very, it would be more of a long shot to fill in underneath on your ticket, and that is Kiss Today Goodbye. Kiss Today Goodbye, I think, is going to be ridden by Kent DeSormo. And he has had a great 2021 season at Del Mar, at the Breeders' Cup, both runs at Del Mar. So look for him. No surprise at 5-1 right now. It's not going to be a surprise if he ends up in the money on that horse.
I agree. I think for me, the only reason I kind of gave that extra little nod there to Azul Coast was did just run down by only a half a length, Kiss Today Goodbye, and also beat 8 rings for that. This is a big time long shot. Probably going to delete this later from the podcast, but keep an eye on the 3 horse Go On. Really underwhelmed. Right? Sorry,
20-1.
Yeah, 20-1. Really underwhelmed early on dirt. Going back to last year, was maxed out essentially at a 69 buyer, which that's not going to be a horse that normally gets on our radar. Moved it to turf this year, ran 3 straight 75s, which was a step up. They decided, let's put this horse back on turf in an optional claiming situation, 40,000, ran an 88. Now, once again, this is a very long, big time long shot, but it's a Doug O'Neill horse. He's somebody that, for me, if he believes this horse has a chance, that's why this horse is running here. Also, you have in the pedigree Nyquist and Uncle Mo, kind of on the sire side of things. So once again, go on. Probably not going to find the winner's circle. Best bet may be a 3rd place finish, but if that's the case, that may pay more than all of Hot Rod Charlie combined if it does show up in the winner's circle. So keep an eye there on go on as a heavy long shot. But race number 7 is the Mathis Mile, going a mile on the turf course there at Santa Anita. These are going to be for 3-year-olds. Raider Jim, I'll give you the honors to get us started here as well. The Mathis Mile.
Yeah, once again, I'm going to talk about Kent DeSormo. He's on the favorite on this one, the 8-horse Beyond Brilliant out of Kentucky. John Sharefs is the trainer. Good horse, good pedigree, should have a good run on this race. And then I also like, though, Above the Law, the 1-horse on the rail. Now, I'm a fan of Joe Bravo. Anybody who's watched since the spring or the summer when Del Mar got underway, I was very excited when Bravo decided to run out here. And then before the meet ended, he announced that, hey, man, no more Jersey Joe. I'm moving to the West Coast. So here he is. He's here to stay. And boy, it's a treat to watch him. He's good on None Above the Law. And at 6-1, I'll take that all day long to finish in the money. So we've got Beyond Brilliant, None Above the Law. But I also like Du Jour, another Baffert horse at 3-1, but it's Baffert and Pratt. And funny that they're teaming up more and more, Pratt and Baffert. So we'll see what's going to happen with this run at Santa Anita. So I like the 7, the 8, the 1. And then I have always been a fan of Tarantino. And at 8-1, a bit on the outside. Let me see what it did the last time out. Yeah, I mean, Tarantino is going to be a long shot, and Tarantino is going to come in. It might show and give you a good exotic bet on a trifecta, something like that. But I do like that Juan Hernandez is on the horse.
Yeah, for me, this is a kind of, place show race. I think there's a lot. The one that jumps out to me, first and foremost, is Law Professor at 8-1. Obviously Beyond Brilliant has the speed numbers and deserves to be the favorite here. Law Professor at 8-1, I think, is very undervalued here. Actually ran in the Santa Anita Derby, didn't, run terribly well, ran a 73 on dirt. But that just kind of tells you what is expected of this horse or what they've seen. It is a Michael McCarthy horse, so he likes what he's seen out of this horse. Only cost 85,000. Last time out, ran an 85 on the turf. Once again, we'll need to improve on that, but has been improving on turf. This will only be its 3rd run. A little bit of value there at 8-1. I also like the 6, Flashiest. This is another horse. You want to talk about consistency? Look, I can pretty much tell you this horse is going to run an 84 or higher. Will it be enough to get in the money? I don't know, but that's what this horse does. It runs on turf and it runs in the mid to high 80s. And at 6-1, once again, it's the big question of, is that speed going to really be above and beyond here? Then Flashiest isn't really a contender. But if it's a bit of a, kind of a grinder type situation, Flashiest could get someone at the nose. Great late speed from Flashiest. And then the 4-horse, it's an Irish horse. Zoffarelli, Drayden Van Dyke aboard. Jeff Mullins is the trainer. Another horse that is very consistent, but for me, this horse has been getting better and better and better. Was running 92 time forms in Great Britain, which is a little bit higher on the scale than the buyer is. Since coming here to the United States, it's been in grade 2s, grade 3s, and then last time out in the grade 1. Well, did lose out to Beyond Brilliant, but has been running 87s the last 2 times out. Once again, if you improve on that, Zoffarelli is going to be in the money. If it can go 88, 89, 90, you're in the money, maybe even in the winner's circle. So definitely keep an eye on those 2. Obviously, like you said, Beyond Brilliant, I think it's that horse's race to lose. But it'll be very, very interesting to see how this horse goes, because I will say last time out in the Hollywood Derby, Beyond Brilliant was 11-1 shot. So not a whole lot. This horse kind of came out of nowhere. I guarantee you, pre-Hollywood Derby, you'd say this would be a favorite, heading into a grade 2 at Santa Anita. You'd say you're crazy, but that's what happens when you win the Hollywood Derby. So moving on to our fourth race we'll be talking about in our first grade 1. It's going to be for Phillies 7 furlongs on the dirt. It is the Brea Stakes. I'll get this one started rolling through. Obviously, I think the favorite here is going to be Private Mission. Fantastic horse. Ran in the distaff. Look, didn't run well. Ran a 49, but a lot of that's because you get held up late, and you're not gonna get the win. 37 lengths off the lead. That doesn't sound like it was running its hardest. Flavian Pratt is still aboard, along with Bob Baffert. We'll see how the betting public feels about that last run. But in the Zenyatta, it did run in 96. So once again, I think I'd need to see a little more value from Private Mission before it gets a little bit of my money. But Missy P is definitely a horse that has caught my eye. A little bit of concern here. 5-2, Mike Smith aboard. Great, great pedigree, Into Mischief, things like that. Just a little worried because this horse debuted at a 90 on the dirt, ran a 95, which was still good. Last time out, they put it on turf, ran a 72. So it's not ideal to see a horse kind of descending still early, only its fourth start. Don't want to overreact, but at the same time, at 5-2, I'd like to see a little bit more value there. The other, I guess this will be kind of my long shot, would be the Doug O'Neill horse, the 6 horse, Brilliant Cut. This is a horse that, since Doug O'Neill has gotten a hold of it, has markedly improved. And it's going to be interesting to see how this horse runs. On dirt is not its strength, no doubt about it. We'll need to improve on that. But I think we can see a situation here that, possibly getting into the money, 12-1, you'll see something there. But Raider Jim, what are your thoughts on the grade 1 La Brea?
Yeah, starting with Missy P, my other comment to what you had to say, and some of the question marks that are out there. Again, like I spoke about in the first race that we talked about today, Missy P's been off 203 days. That's a long time to be off that long, and to have the odds guys at the track start the morning line at 5-2 is a real head scratcher for me. Has 1 win in 3 starts. And again, 3, last time out, finished in 5th place. So what they, that's that thing that you and I always talk about. Well, on one hand, we say we don't talk conspiracy. On the other hand, we say that's because somebody behind the scenes knows something. And that's kind of what I feel right now. At the same time, would I put money on Missy P? I don't know that I would this time around. Living the Best Life. Now, that's a horse that I think has got some potential. In this race, the 1st, the 2nd, the 6th, and the 7 horses, they were all in the winner's circle the last time out. Different distances, maybe some different calibers, different surfaces. I understand that. But, 1st and 2nd horse, 33 days off, 31 days off, both in the winner's circle. 6 and 7 horses, 57 days off, 53 days off, respectively, both in the winner's circle. I look for them to challenge Private Mission in this race. Should be Private Mission, but again, you and I were there. That horse came in 11th. And again, scratch my head. Why now all of a sudden? Granted, ran off 3 or 4 in a row prior to that. But to lose the momentum that quickly, makes you go, and so it makes me go, so I don't want to put my money on that horse necessarily. But I do like, I also like Brilliant Cut, but I like Living the Best Life, Brilliant Cut, and I even like Canoodling.
Yeah.
Canoodling right now, not the top caliber in the field, but at 8-1 to come in and fill underneath, absolutely. Give it a look.
Yeah, this is an interesting race because a lot of these horses, it's kind of, you roll through, and with outside of, Private Mission, and really that's it. Nobody's been even in the graded stakes races. A lot of these horses are in the ungraded stakes races where, you're running on, for the prize of 75,000, which, believe me, life-changing money for a lot of us, but in horse racing, that's a very low number for a purse for a stakes race, hence the ungraded stakes race. Private Mission, not only the only one to run in a grade 1, but it ran in the biggest grade 1 for Phillies of the year in the distaff. Now, once again, didn't run terribly well, but like all these other horses, they've all kind of been in, $75,000 purses. We're talking about a $300,000 purse here. Big jump up. It's going to be very interesting. And I agree with you on Canoodling. That's a horse this year has been in the money every single run, 8 of them, and has been in the winner's circle 5 times, 8-1. I think that's good, especially the jump up. Ran 78 and then last time out all the way up to 87. So definitely something to keep an eye on there. Moving on to what will be race number 10. It is the grade 1 Malibu Stakes, going 7 furlongs. This one's very, very interesting to me. I cannot wait to break it down. But Raider Jim, I'll give you the first crack at it. The Malibu Stakes, $300,000 purse, 7 furlongs on dirt.
It was fun. Before we did our pre-record talk, we both went to this race, and I think we both said the same thing. Who's this horse that they've rated above Dr. Scheibel? How does that happen? Two wins. It's got 2 races, I believe, under its belt. And then you look at the speed, and you're like, okay, I got it. At the same time, and Sadler's a great trainer, and there's a reason he's got Flavian Pratt on board. But even that, horses aside, 5 Flightline, 4 Dr. Scheibel, Flavian Pratt, JJ Hernandez. Whoa, there you are. That's called a heavyweight fight where I'm sitting, from my seat in the stands. But I still like Dr. Scheibel. I think Dr. Scheibel is by far and away the top of the class here. But we'll see. Is Flightline going to 4-5? I mean, I keep looking at that and I scratch my head. Baby Yoda's one I'll fill in underneath on my ticket. Also triple tap.
Yeah. This is, like you said, I was explaining to you when I kind of break these races down, I first things first, I just go through, read the names, post positions and the morning lines. And I don't look at the numbers just yet unless something jumps out to me. Well, guess what? Flightline 4-5. I mean, this horse has a smaller morning line than Hot Rod Charlie. That's incredible. And it's a horse we haven't talked about once, and it's not for our own, West Coast or whatever bias. I mean, this horse has been running in, maiden special weights and an optional claiming 40,000. Those races are never on our radar.
Two wins, granted, 2 starts, 2 wins. Do you see $78,000? $78,000.
The length of distance won. Now, obviously, a 105 and a 114 in its debut, and then in its second run career-wise, respectively. But it's won by a combined 27 lengths, 13 and 14, respectively there. So this horse has been dominating, but once again, it's been much lower horses, big step up with Dr. Scheibel. I think that if you can get Dr. Scheibel as anything more than even money here, I think you have to take it. This was a horse that was a nose off of winning the Breeders' Cup Sprint. Granted, it was 6 furlongs. Well, guess what? If the Breeders' Cup Sprint is 7 furlongs, Dr. Scheibel's in the winner's circle.
Right.
So got to keep an eye there on that. It's going to be very interesting. I love the call of Baby Yoda, especially on the post for that horse that's you'd have to expect to set the lead. And I think it makes things easier when it's on the rail like that. It's going to be interesting at the very least. We're going to
speed at the distance. At this distance, the horses with the best speed, there's only 2 of the 7. Dr. Scheibel, triple tap. The others don't register as best speed in this. So it's going to be interesting to see. I don't have anything against Flightline. I'd love to see a horse that come out there and really, really, take charge and make it a great match race down the stretch with Dr. Scheibel. So I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, it's going to be very, like I was talking with you, it should be going off about here on the West Coast, about 350. So the Eagles and Giants will be fully wrapped up by then. So my attention will focus here to the Malibu Stakes, but it's going to be a heck of a race. And like I said, it'd be very nice to see those two go at it. But at the very least, I just want to see what we got out of Flightline, because, this is a horse that possibly could have, been someone very, very competitive at the Breeders' Cup, apparently, but an injury kind of kept him out. So moving on to the grand finale, the final race we'll be breaking down, and the final race on the card at Santa Anita. It is race number 11, $300,000 purse, going 1.25 miles on the downhill turf at Santa Anita. It's for 3-year-old fillies. It is the American Oaks. Raider Jim, I'll give you the honors to get us started on the long turf race at Santa Anita.
What a great session this is going to be. What a great program on Sunday. I will tell you, I am definitely in the money with the one horse, Fluffy Socks. Always have liked Fluffy Socks, continue to like Fluffy Socks, has had 71 days off, but did finish in the winner's circle the last time out. And of course, one that I actually had on my list and overlooked it when we were talking about favorite horses, horse of the year, that type of thing. Going Global. Going Global is running out of the 5 spot, right where they like that horse, in the middle of the pack, if you will, to get the start. As long as he breaks off the gate good at 8-5, won't be surprised to see that horse go wire to wire. First place last time out, 50 days off. Just a great horse out of Ireland, one of those Ireland horses that we learned about the hard way last year. And then the 7 horse, Burgoo Alley, I believe is, if I can see it with my glasses, another horse out of Ireland, also finished first the last time out. I like those 3. And then one more that I had. And that is Closing Remarks, the 3 horse at 6-1. You gotta like the number you can get there. Probably going to stay right in the 6-1, range. I don't think it's going to drop down at all. I don't think it's going to move up at all. Closing Remarks with Joe Bravo on board is going to be a good race. Those are my 4 horses, though.
Yeah, I agree pretty much with every single one of those. So I'll just kind of piggyback on each one. For Fluffy Socks, and a lot of these horses, it's just that extra bit in this race. A lot of these horses, 1 mile and 16, mile and an eighth. Veterans, well, this is 1.25 miles on a kooky kind of track. The downhill turf at Santa Anita is a little, almost a 3, maybe 4 turn, depending on what you grade as a turn. So it is going to be a little interesting here. But Fluffy Socks at the top definitely has continually got better on the turf. Got the job done. I guess my only concern at 3-1, I go back to August, the Del Mar Oaks. It was Going Global and Closing Remarks who were better on that day than Fluffy Socks. Now, obviously, Going Global is the favorite, but Closing Remarks, as you brought up, as you brought up, is 6-1. So a lot more value there with that horse rather than 3-1 Fluffy Socks. Going Global, is that maybe the best turf horse in the world right now, or at least in North America. Has been very, very good. Did lose out in a half length to Madone, but that's been its only blemish of the year. It's made north of $600,000 this year for the 3-year-old. You have to expect this horse to win. We go back to that Del Mar Oaks. A lot of these horses ran in that. Going Global got the job done. Has beaten Closing Remarks 3 times now. So it's going to be a lot to ask for a lot of these other horses to get the job done. But like I said, it's those horses. And for me, Going Global, I don't want to say the biggest favorite of the day, but for me, I would say the surest pick, just because of everything we've seen. This is a horse that's not only one of the best at this distance on that turf, and has beaten some of its top competitors.
Right.
It's going to be very interesting. But
60% win record on the turf, which is hands above everybody else. The next closest is going to be Core Values, the 2 horse, which wins 50% of the time on the turf. But right after that, it's Fluffy Socks.
Yeah. And going back, one more thing for Going Global for you, 4 for 4 on the Santa Anita turf, 4 for 4 in the winner's circle. And I kind of talked about that kooky little downhill. Well, this horse has been there, done that. So like I said, it's hard to get away from that. And some of these others, 9-5 morning line, I'd be okay with that. With all due respect to some of these other horses, even Flightline, we both kind of want to see a lot more, especially at 4-5. I would expect these numbers to kind of flop. I'd be a bigger fan of Going Global at 4-5 than pretty much any other horse that we've talked about today. So it's going to be very, very interesting to see how all this shakes out. We'll be back with you in the coming weeks to break it all down and get you ready for whatever weekend, whatever big races we have for you coming up. And then, of course, it will all kind of build up for the Saudi Cup. And then we'll, of course, have some of the big Derby prep races, the Kentucky Derby. And before we know it, we'll be talking Breeders' Cup at Keeneland next November. But Raider Jim, this episode in the 2021 horse racing season for us has ended. Final thoughts on not only this episode, but really the 2021 season.
Yeah, I've got a couple thoughts here. One, you mentioned the Saudi Cup. And just like all of a sudden we're talking playoffs in the NFL, we're talking the start of the Santa Anita racing season, which is going to take us right into the winter and the spring, and the Saudi Cup. The Saudi Cup is less than 8 weeks away, if I'm not mistaken. So it's going to be here before you know it. And there's always some kind, there was controversies 2 years ago. There was stuff going on last year. They still haven't paid the owners of what's the
Maximum Security.
Maximum Security. Right? Yeah, they still have not paid out that money, and they are not going to.
Never going to.
There's not a thing that horse racing can do about it. So it's going to be an exciting year. As far as the 2021 itself, I got to be honest with you. Few and far from me that every now and then somebody crosses my path that I make a connection with, and it's not just a connection where I nod and go, good to see you. It is a connection where when I'm going to see that individual, I look forward to it and I get a smile on my face and it motivates me. And I know it's just going to be good-natured conversation because for some reason there's a camaraderie there that is natural. And that's what I have with my buddy here, Brandon. And I will tell you, for some of the things I've done in my life, sporting events, people I have met, to go to one of the biggest sporting events that I've ever been to, and that is the Breeders' Cup. And to go with this young man, I'll tell you what, that's my 2021 thoroughbred racing highlight of the year for me. And I mean that with all sincerity.
Thank you. I should have, I needed warning on that one. I'm got the frog in the throat. Someone's cutting onions over here. I appreciate that. And it's kind of, I think I told you when we were there in the paddock before kind of everything got rolling that, obviously if my dad was still here, it would have been great to be there with him. But if there was anyone else on this planet that I would have wanted to spend that day with, it was you, Raider Jim. And really all of this, sitting down, not just this show, NCAA basketball, football, it is a great pleasure, not only to do it, for everyone out there listening, but just to interact with you on a daily basis. And, it's kind of one of those things where I tell people all the time, like, I still haven't actually met Jim Martinez. That is no longer the case. And I would not have picked a better way to meet you, at least professionally. We were in the same room at one point early on, but we were definitely not too familiar with each other. But yeah, the Breeders' Cup was absolutely fantastic.
Absolutely.
And, obviously I even kind of forgot about the Pegasus World Cup. That's coming up in, I believe, January at, I believe either Gulfstream or Oaklawn. I get those mixed up. So keep an eye there for those. But, 2021, I think all of us know that normal is not normal anymore. And we probably don't have normal. And, I think a lot of people need to realize that and kind of move on or, get rid of the hopes of going back to pre-pandemic situations. Correct. Probably not going to happen. But you know what? I think what we saw at Del Mar for the Breeders' Cup was fantastic. I think it was great to be out and about in a safe environment. I mean, look, we'll be honest. It was a situation, people close, but everyone, you would assume vaccinated. If you weren't, you had a mask on, things like that. It was a great show from Del Mar, and I wouldn't really expect anything less. And looking ahead to 2022, the Breeders' Cup obviously won't be here. Hopefully in the next few years it will come back, but it's not going to kind of quell our passion for this great sport. I think we're going to be looking ahead to the Breeders' Cup with a lot of vigor and plenty of things before that. But for 2021, that's all we got here at the original Call to Post. We hope you all have a very Merry Christmas, a happy holiday, and of course, a very Merry New Year as well. Be safe. Don't drive drunk. Be smart. Please do not ruin someone's family's life because you had too much to drink. So
Correct.
With that, thank you all so much for listening to not just this episode, but every one that we've ever put out. We thank you all very much for listening to this edition of the Original Call to Post presented by the First Off the Bench Podcast Network. Everyone comes off the bench, but we are first. It's time for me and you to go wash your hands and stop hating. We'll take care.
Merry Christmas.
See you next year. Merry Christmas.